platform. So let's start off with SoFi. When we're looking at SoFi, what we're going to find is that this platform is a lot more than just an investing brokerage, okay? They've got a lot of different arms doing a lot of different things. Now, on the SoFi platform, you're going to have access to things like stocks, ETFs, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, as well as the option to automate your investing similar to what you're doing on Betterment. So $3,016 to buy a share of Amazon with SoFi, you can use stock bits to buy only a couple dollars worth of the particular stock. And if we press view holdings here, we can dive in and see. You can choose from a whole number of kind of different ways to find stocks on SoFi. So starting off here, the diversified portfolios, that's one way to find different stocks here. And you can kind of choose how aggressive you want to be with your investing. It'll give you some recommendations and kind of help you put a portfolio together from scratch, which is pretty.
Is what else can they sell these people?
Right.
It's sort of like the SoFi model. What else can they sell? Can they sell insurance? Can they sell mortgages? Can they sell credit rating services? Can they sell whatever?
Here.
And so
let's see, IPOE. There we go. SoFi says SPAC merger effective with the S4 SPAC merger effective with the SEC. Okay, so just sort of reiterating that the merger is expected to happen. On a minute. SoFi was down, right? Pretty sure it's down. Let's see here. SoFi. Oh, SoFi's up about 1%. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, so SoFi's running. Let's go. Oh, SoFi. Good, good, good. I don't know. It might be a little too late on a put on Ride. I mean, maybe. You have to be. Should we take some of our attendees out on SoFi now, or do we wait? Well. Oh, well, it is a January call that I have on SoFi, so I've got time. But come on with the U-turn here. What's up with that chart? I bought options on IPOE, which is now SoFi, for around $30. I sent that alert right here. You can see right here, May 13th, margining a tiny bit. Nothing's changed fundamentally for my channel, for my strategy, and I said that because we were having a really red day. Buying 50K Tesla, 30K Square, 30K NEO. Margin again. But what's worth noting is that SoFi is way up. Been some bad news on SoFi. Again, I'm totally out of SoFi, but I want to know what's happening. SoFi, there's nothing. There's nothing. It's just SoFi Technologies put volume heavy and directionally bearish 3 days ago.
Positive. In our view, SoFi has identified an unfilled product need in the marketplace that could potentially allow the company to build a defensible competitive advantage. Currently, the majority of the company's revenue comes from its existing student loan debt refinance and personal loan business, neither of which have shown any signs of a moat. While we are
yeah, we'll take a peek at SoFi as well. I see you here in Discord on C3AI. Let me see SoFi first, though. Let's take a peek what we got here. So SoFi sitting at 1816, 1823 here in the pre-market. What's going on with SoFi? Because SoFi was so short when it was IPOE, and now they don't show it anymore. They just don't show data for it anymore. It's like, what? Why? Selling puts. But anyway. SoFi puts were a great deal. Yeah, and they still might be a little bit on the pricey side for CCIV. I also think SoFi has the potential of going down to 14.50 to 15, and then it's a good deal. So I think it's like 16.66 right now, but I think, like, for example, 17.50, I think it's a little pricey for right now, and I'm going to show you why I'm picking 17.50.
Well, in the bear case for SoFi Technologies, Brian, what does SoFi do?
Well, SoFi started in 2012 and they were focused on student loan refinancing. But since then, you can't describe what they do easily because they do just about everything involved with money. You can invest with their app. You can store your money there just like a bank. You have personal loans. You can huge. That's not unusual for a company involved in finance like SoFi is. But it still is something that fragilizes a company.
For sure. So how did this company score on our checklist? On my checklist, it got a 58, which is well below my why bother category. However, my checklist is biased against banks, and SoFi has so many bank-like factors. Galileo. We got a lot of feedback that Galileo is the real secret sauce of SoFi, and that is the technology here that is interesting to most investors. If that can continue to grow, this company could easily be a great investment. 2, the company is not yet profitable or free cash flow positive. However, operating leverage has kicked in, and it could be shortly.
Out of the process as new underwriters like SoFi, like Robinhood, start to come into the market. Remember, in 5 to 10 years from now, the business of IPOs will be extraordinarily different, both by demand of those retail investors.
Would be either SoFi or potentially Stripe, which obviously Stripe isn't public. But Square, Affirm, Coinbase, Interactive Brokers, TD Schwab, these are all going to grow way slower than Robinhood.
SoFi was that they lowered their expectations for guidance based on student loan refinancing revenue by $40 million. So think about that. As the president extended this for several more months, they had to write down their expected revenue on the student loan refinancing, which is one of SoFi's business models. Customer funnel is not happening. So 2 ways you can think about this with SoFi, right? So you either have the bull case scenario or the bear case scenario, as in life and maybe with stocks as well. But I felt like with SoFi, you do want to think about that a little bit. Now, the other types of loans, look, it's much bigger than student loans, but student loans, as you can see here, as a portion of their loan business, they've got $2.9 billion worth of loans of the personal loans processed by SoFi in the second quarter of 2021 were fully automated. Okay, that's up from less than 30% a year ago. So SoFi is giving out $1.3 billion worth of personal loans, and over half of them were done by machine. I thought that was really interesting. Dollar amount and also a profit amount. But financial services in the technology platform over at SoFi is the fastest growing in terms of revenue and probably an opportunity as well. But I wanted to show you on the lending side, contribution on the profit was 89 million. So this is a big business for them. So that is
list right now. That actually includes a stock like SoFi, which is one of the reasons I was so fanatical about selling massive puts on SoFi. It's real. So we're gonna watch SoFi here. The volatility has come down. So that's not bad. It's not bad movement by SoFi here.
Their customers love it. They don't really need to attend branches, and that's also good for SoFi because they don't need to spend money here. SoFi is spending a lot on marketing right now, but once they get these customers, they can always cross-sell more products, and that's how you get more leverage. So
somebody said Venmo was trying this, but kind of like Cash App or SoFi, which I think is competition to Square and of course SoFi. But
it's going to be huge in America. All right, next on the board we have SoFi Technologies. And this is one that I added to my watch list a few weeks ago because I was downright surprised that Morningstar had SoFi fair value somewhere in the neighborhood of $16. And for a conservative firm like Morningstar, I mean, I was taken back that they basically to the 50-day moving average at about $15.50. But with SoFi, this is one for the future if you believe the story. Get a little bit closer here to profitability. And then as far as revenue, which is likely more important at price to sales valuation for SoFi. All right, on the tip rank side, again, we only have 3 analysts, but they have updated one and 16 days ago and the other 2 days ago. Rosenblatt, this Sean Horgan, he's up to $30 supposedly 1 year out from now. Then you got to hold at $16.50. I'm kind of in the hold category for myself with SoFi.
But that's great. Oh, Jeffries just initiated coverage on SoFi with a price target of 25. I wonder if that's why it's pushing today. Good. Good.
And now once again it's hovering in the 14ths. Now what actually is SoFi? Is it the Fi of the So? Because that sounds weird. Well, it is, but it's more than that. It's a personal finance company that basically can be described as getting their little hands in every little niche to essentially operate as a bank, which will open a whirlwind of opportunities for them. Why are they trying to acquire a small local bank instead of just going straight to regulators and ask for a bank charter the old-fashioned way? Well, because that's a lot more difficult and takes a lot more time.
SoFi's of the world.
SoFi isn't really fintech. You know, like Coinbase is more fintech to me, and PayPal and Square. So SoFi is just a lender with very expensive advertising. Oh, dude, they spend so much money.
They got a stadium.
They've got a stadium. They don't have a lot of customers, but they got a stadium. You know, you gotta love like Noto's dropping 20 mil a year profit. So my company makes substantially more than SoFi, and we're way smaller
right now.
So
that's no fun. SoFi chart looking good. Is it? Let me see here. SoFi. Oh, yeah. Good job. If I go to also a December, or if I go a
And we got a question on should you buy this pre-IPO on something like SoFi? Well, if you are going to do it, make sure you do it on SoFi so that we can get some bolstering of those next earnings reports. But I already said something that's going to be very long term. If your time horizon is very, very long term, probably going to be a safe bet. But on a short to medium term horizon, that's a good deal. And we've had a lot of questions on should you buy this pre-IPO on something like SoFi? Well, if you are going to do it, make sure to do it on SoFi so that we can get some bolstering of those next earnings reports.
But when you factor in a lot of what SoFi is doing, they're being super aggressive on things. They could potentially grow into this valuation. Now, speaking of the most recent quarter, Q3 came in. They basically beat on the top and the bottom line. Revenue came in at $272 million. That is up 35% year over year, which, look, isn't a necessarily like tech like other products, and they're constantly trying to do that. And that's SoFi's basically bread and butter, is they bring in the customer and then they spread you across a bunch of different products and make money off of you. Came in at $93 million in the most recent quarter. Now, we did have interest expense of about $21 million. That gets $80 million worth of fees. Obviously, the more users you can acquire onto SoFi, the more fees you can start charging these people.
We also have a credit card. In addition to that, we provide home, life, and auto insurance through partnership. So broad-based products, we want to meet our members when they have a need.
Be talking about SoFi stock. This is actually a new company for me, and currently I don't actually hold it. But for a lot of investors out there that are wondering why this stock shut up on Q3 earnings, but don't actually know much about the actual company, this video is here for you.
SoFi, I've been watching it. I like it too, but I really thought it was going to keep dripping out when it was down here in the teens, and that hasn't happened.
For any of your savings, your stock investments, your crypto, credit cards, loans, or even insurance. And with the inflationary environment that we have today, it means that there's going to be an increase in the amount of actual company. Now, the most enticing product since last quarter has actually been SoFi Money and SoFi Invest, for which they have actually grown 179% year over year. That's up to 3.2 million products in their investing category, for which they have another 1 million in their actual lending department. See, the investing division of the side of this company is the most exciting % insider holdings. And even more fantastic than that is the fact that SoFi insiders sold about 1 million shares of SoFi stock in the last 6 months. Not good. But whenever you compare that to the amount of shares that they bought at 326 million shares, that is absolutely insane. It still shows that even this far into the business, they are still very positive about the $1 trillion. And I mean, SoFi is doing it right. Like, SoFi has no branches at all. They're 100% digital and mainly on a mobile app. Legacy banks just can't compete with that because they would be cutting off existing customers by if they were actually going to take out existing branches. Plus, SoFi's brand awareness has just been exploding right now, considering the amount of TV.
Moving on to stock number 2 is one that I've talked about so much. It's SoFi. And you can see we've had this beautiful resistance at about 24 and support in and around 15. But I personally think that support's going to be changing, and it's going to be using this yellow line that represents the 200 moving average line. You can see it's hit it.
Yeah, Nike's sparking down a little bit. Somebody says SoFi is tanking. And what's this one? Why is this moving so fast today?
The business is actually the most exciting one. So if you're interested for all of that, just sit back and relax. Maybe hit that thumbs up button. It really helps me outgrow the channel and get my videos out, but in a more responsible way. There's no reason for SoFi to push people to start gambling, because at the end of the day, that business model is really not sustainable. Yes, casinos make most of their money that way, but a company like SoFi will probably go bankrupt if people start gambling their money, because eventually they'll have to repay some of that money if it's payments back on bank partners to offer various solutions such as SoFi Money. Now, if they do get that bank charter, they'll be able to provide deposit accounts to their members. They'll be able to lower interest rates and give others higher interest rates as well, because they control it all. More money flows inside of their ecosystem, the better control they have and the better service they can offer.
On what seems to be not even SoFi news. Like seriously, this drop is actually not even SoFi. People that don't understand how this could actually affect SoFi, let me explain. Let's do a little easy math on their most important products, which is actually their lending category. Yes, I mean,
puts them at about 25.6 times for 2025. So it shows you SoFi sold off nicely to where you're getting that lower forward PE of about 25.6 again.
And competition. Now the advantage of SoFi is that you have everything in one app, and it's extremely appealing to very young people, because young people, they don't want to go and look everywhere, you know. Oh, let me go look for a home loan. Oh, I'm on SoFi, I just do it on SoFi anyway, which is beautiful, but you have to factor in your valuation around company. So if nobody needs loans, nobody's going to use SoFi. If nobody want to invest, nobody's going to use SoFi. So it does not deserve a pretty high multiple because of that. But I gave it a price to sales of 4. This is the worst case. There's a $17 billion market cap or a 42% upside. Base case scenario is a price to sales of 6, which is a little bit less than half today's price to sales.
Now, stocks like Trulieve, Corsair, Tattooed Chef, The Lending Club, Palantir, SoFi, and even PayPal and Shopify are down so much in the past month. It really looks like there is a full-on stock market crash going on inside of the stock market, but when you take a look at the S&P 500 or the Dow, you don't really notice it at all.
Nigerian.
I'm going to go with SoFi. Great game last night played out of that stadium, and I think this is a stock that's going higher. We've seen 2 days. It was a great game, right? I mean, it was outstanding. But it was. But I'll tell you what, I like the fact that we've seen a lot of option activity of late in the stocks towards the lower end.
Important, okay? SoFi stock is dropping through the ground right now, down a little over 40% in just 1 month. They're getting their
SoFi. Citi has started coverage of SoFi and has put it as a buy, saying that the stock will make its way back up to $20.
You know, Robinhood, Square, and say like a SoFi. That could be good for Coinbase, but I'm not seeing progress there.
You know, it's interesting, Dan, you mentioned that and fees in general. I wonder, we've been talking about deflation in financial services for so long, but we've reached this point where it's zero commissions everywhere.
We're also seeing similar movements with personal finance firm SoFi and cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase. So as we slowly exit the pandemic, we're optimistic about that, demand for digital apps is cooling down, and pair that with a broader retreat from tech stocks ahead of interest rate increases, and you have yourself a sell-off in some of the market's best performing names.
Who are like, just bought SoFi at 24, don't care that it's gone up because it's just going to keep going to the moon because it's such a great company. Do you want to be like those kids on Twitter who are buying these points, you know, like you just take the little screenshot of it.
Shorting those fintech names, an Affirm, you know, SoFi, it's a Square, or Block Now, et cetera, or being long the traditional banks?
You know, Mel, we talked a few weeks about trimming the tree in tech, but now you have already done that, and then people started piling into it. So the trade is mostly done, I think. And if, you know, we get some details from the different custodians.
You'll remember that they offered just 0.4% of the offering on SoFi, and in some cases, SoFi was only able to give those retail investors a single share. So they may have requested 10 or 100, and that's how they did it equitably. They said, sorry guys, we're way oversubscribed. Here's a single Rivian share. Imagine that, holding just one share.
You could trade IPOs. You can't do that with JP Morgan. You're not buying crypto with Citibank. You don't allow those are the dinosaur names. Now, granted, they've had a great run, and the SoFis of the world are the growth entity.
And if you go back and look, you'll see that every time SoFi gets down to these, 14 levels or so, the ensuing bounce is pretty significant. I think this should be a stock that's north of $22. I think there's some analysts on the street that agree with this, and maybe this is the catalyst that will lift some of the uncertainty. I'm not sure.
I should say post-market briefly. It's also worth noting that SoFi is up about 3.8%.
Bank charter, nice reaction in the stock, but that's not even close to where these names are going to have to go in order to be that super app. I think Venmo in stores is a very underrated part of the reopening story. I think Venmo at Amazon as well has a lot of potential. But just overall, this company with almost
The day chart, not uncommon. SoFi trying to push back up here. Whoa, look at the bounce. It's perfect. Oh my gosh.
I trust what I have to say, but what I do ask if you want to watch the video is that you hear out the argument and then you think for yourself if you have a comfortable and well capitalized. None of that. None of what I just said applies to SoFi. This person says, pretty soon growth stock critics are going to be arguing that these companies are only worth the value of the toilets and plumbing system in their headquarters.
The amount and the quantity of stocks that I'm buying has been lower because of all of these things that
sort of accelerate in the last few moments.
Yep. So first of all, SoFi has a very similar program to Robinhood. Robinhood kind of came out big with the democratizing finance thing, but I agree. It's introducing this thing that seemed to be this kind of air of exclusivity in the past to an entire new generation of investors. And don't get me wrong, I was here in back December saying,
holy moly. Robinhood is now down 12%. It's another 2% down.
Looking at Timothy here. Timothy, obviously, not so good of a success rate, 11% upside that he usually has on his companies. He follows a lot of high growth companies, tech companies. Thing of what the company does. A SoFi bank charter could provide upside optionality and has the potential to reduce funding costs and increase net interest income. This is
Voyager's at for sure a 52-week low, not an all-time low, but 52-week low. Small Direct Club, giving back some gains it had the other day. If you look at Fubo,
Roblox stable, Matterport, Lucid stable. Oh, SoFi has now visited the bottom. I think Robinhood's actually going back to recovering. Oh yeah, look at that. It's only down 3% right now.
Today about SoFi, ticker
Yes.
SOFI. Curious if this is a good time to buy. It recently broke past the $14 support level.
Right.
But it did get the bank charter, which should make their costs lower.
I got to tell you, Corey, I could not believe this stock after rallying. I mean, boy, this market hates anything. But this stock rallied. It should have.
Acquirer at these prices. So that I would assume would take SoFi or somebody like that off the table. A lot of people have speculated that a SoFi would like to own a company like this.
I think it'd be more of a merger where Anthony would take the position as CEO. And you're right, it's the high vote, low vote, that structure that they set up, which, for a company that...
I want to look at some of the others here. Oh, look at SoFi. Nice move here on SoFi. Trying to get back over $13.
Maybe PayPal would be interested in buying something like SoFi Technologies out. So SoFi is another one of those stocks that just is having trouble getting its footing, right? When it comes to SoFi, here's another one I don't think we would want to sell out right now.
SoFi
I think
Stadium is the home of the Rams, which of course is where the...
Let's do another one. Let's do let's look at something like SoFi, right? Because SoFi in the fintech space has been getting killed on these lower volumes. And when you get these lower volumes, like what we just saw on Bloomberg, or even lower crypto volumes, which is something else that SoFi benefits off of, they do provide crypto service of these companies. And I love SoFi as well. Problem is, they're some of the first to get sold off because there's a lot of fear that these companies, because they don't have profitability, algorithms are just going to automatically sell them off.
To SoFi Stadium. Efforts stretching outside the stadium. Law enforcement working alongside hotels to train staff on how to identify human trafficking.
The things we look out for are somebody that doesn't get to carry their own ID, somebody that just looks out of place with the guest they're in, somebody arriving that...
I mean, it's going to be so top of mind that people are going to buy SoFi stock on Monday. That's what they're saying, okay? And...
acquiring a banking software company. Remember, SoFi got approval for their banking charter after acquiring a bank, I want to say earlier this year. It was about March of 2021.
Of our long-term growth strategy is to secure a national bank charter, which we believe can enhance our overall profitability. While we currently rely on third-party bank holding companies to provide banking services to our members, including deposit accounts, and lower our cost to fund loans. I actually really like this. I think that Anthony Noto is a pretty cool guy. And if we just scroll down on LinkedIn to his previous work experience, we can see that he worked at Twitter for 3 years and 8 months. And during that time, he was the chief operations officer at SoFi. And he has, in fact, been building his position in SoFi for quite some time. In August,
to talk about the quarter. Dan, what stands out to you in terms of, the user growth numbers and
I've actually never seen something like that in the history of SoFi. So everything that we track, all these KPIs, products, members, products per member, they're accelerating, and they're accelerating at a faster pace than they've done in the past. So, they're firing on all cylinders. That's probably an understatement.
I mean, you have it that SoFi can emerge out of this huge group of companies, whether it's, Cash App, it's Robinhood, it's Coinbase, it's PayPal, of trying to become this hub for younger people's financial lives.
I think it's a great question. I think there's room for more than one company to succeed. And if you're thinking about
Hope they would have. Okay, next, SoFi. So I think that SoFi really beat everybody's expectations today. Whether you were a bull or a bear, you were surprised, which was again shown on the chart. Here's a rundown of what happened. They reported record GAAP and adjusted revenue for fourth quarter and full year 2021. Fourth quarter GAAP revenue is up 67% year over year. Some consistent growth. And then tech platform accounts where SoFi uses Galileo and some other acquisitions to basically help fintech firms build out their own platforms is up steadily as well. So this was a huge winning year for SoFi, and the last quarter of the year was also a huge win. I would have been satisfied with just member growth, but we got almost everything. And of course, House Bank will start boosting results more meaningfully for SoFi in the second quarter, as well as enhance profitability.
Consideration of approximately 84 million shares of SoFi common stock, less than 10% of SoFi fully diluted share. Less of 10% of SoFi fully diluted share count as of September 30, 2021.
For me, I always think that's a very tough question. I understand SoFi is a high volatile, high growth stock. So you have to go through that and understand that when you invest into this stock, you understand that this is not investing in Apple. It's not investing in Amazon.
Look video at SoFi, because I know there's a lot of people that really, have mentioned that. So I could do something like that. I haven't done one of those big in-depth videos on a new stock in a while.
SoFi is actually under $10 billion. All stock deal, meaning they're going to issue over 84 million new shares of SoFi. And we'll talk about this from a dilution perspective.
Banks, they're the actual analysts of SoFi. Obviously, they just get into how this conference call is going to go, normal stuff. It really only starts to get into it once Anthony Noto starts talking. And that's whenever he just highlights everything that we saw from last year. So we saw, record fourth quarter adjusted net revenues of around $280 million, up 54%. Increase the amount of monetization. But then we look at SoFi Money, which they actually introduced, 2-day early paychecks, auto save, cashback, and no fee overdraft protection.
How about you, Jermaine? Not too bad. I was wondering your thoughts on SoFi. I know that it has this 52-week low yesterday, and I was wondering what's your thoughts about it. We know it's heading to a great direction. I'd like to try to see if it's a strong buy.
I'm beginning to believe that this may be one of the most undervalued. I know the PE, but it's got growth.
Coaster that SoFi has had, right? Just a couple weeks ago, we saw Q4 earnings results released, and the stock actually went up over 20% into the $13 ranges. As of today, this stock has plummeted over no course of any change of news, all the way down to $7.74 a share. But some people are buying this right now. And I'm not the only one, as the CEO, Anthony Noto of SoFi Technologies, continues to pour more and more money into buying more of the shares for his own company.
Okay, and so now, you're looking at SoFi stock now that it's trading around 20% below its back deal value. What does this mean? What does this environment suggest? Once again, going back to that question, is this fundamentals? Is this sentiment? And so I look at this and I say, this is SoFi is sort of like a case example. Also getting sort of this uncertainty discount with something like SoFi, where folks are sort of saying, wait a second, this is a financial business that's going to be cyclical. It's going to be tied to the underlying economic cycle. Now, they have grown very quickly, so it's possible they're able to grow right through it.
SoFi in our spec bucket. That one is not recovering quite as nicely yet. Apple.
To be named in the Time 100 Most Influential Companies in 2022. And, I don't know exactly how big of a deal this is going to end up being, but it seems like people are excited about it for right now, at least. Like they said, yeah, Apple stuff is cool, the Apple Wallet's cool, the Apple Card's cool, Apple Pay, all that stuff. But I don't see that eating into what SoFi's got going on really at all, and not in a big way. But federal student loan payment moratorium, SoFi's weak growth score accounts for the delay. So overall, investor places tell reimagining consumer banking is part of what is part of that, which is where SoFi comes in. And obviously they're very, very hot on SoFi right now. They're excited about them, so you really have people on both sides. It's hard to get a grasp of where we're at right now. SoFi is assigned a buy rating with the price target of $13 from a new research firm that came out today, and this is very, very cool to see, obviously, which is SoFi Technology. So again, people are heating up, people are getting excited about the opportunity, not only as for SoFi as a company right now, but also for SoFi as a stock.
Student loans. It had to cut its forecast because of the Biden administration's move to pause student loan payments for even further out into this year. That stock is down about 5.5% in early hours.
Now, this isn't exactly true, and I'll show you why. It says, today announced updated guidance for an anticipated full year 2022 financial results following the numbers that they're actually posting here. So it says, SoFi updated adjusted net revenue and adjusted EBITDA guidances for full year of 2022 is now $1.47 billion for their net revenue and then $100 million for their EBITDA.
This news is from yesterday, but I believe the last video I made on SoFi was on April 6th. And I think at that time, it was still just like a rumor that they were going to be extending the student loan payment moratorium again. Maybe it's making them make less money in the short term or even the medium term. But in the long term, if SoFi, still is able to execute on a lot of their high level ideas and high level goals and things that they're guiding on, then, a lot of this stuff will end up ultimately not mattering with like AWS or Microsoft with Azure or whatever. I think a lot of these streaming services run on. There's big comparisons, maybe unrealistic, maybe great comparisons between SoFi and Amazon or AWS or whatever, and saying, hey, Spruce is maybe doing well, maybe they're trending up, they're number 74 on the finance charts, and SoFi is getting a piece of that as well. So not only
this is the latest in a series of enhancements SoFi has launched for checking and savings direct deposit members in recent weeks to make sure the rising rate environment enriches its members, which includes offering an industry-leading 1.25% APY. We've talked about that in the last video.
May 10th, just at the tail end of earnings season, fintech company SoFi will report its Q1 results. So this is obviously tomorrow, Tuesday, May 10th. And I just wanted to scroll down. They dive into this thing. They talk a lot about, SoFi and some different things about them. But I want to scroll down to the final thoughts just to one article that is excited somewhat about the SoFi earnings report coming up.
Account for what people are seeing in this latest quarter because they halted guidance or halted the actual trading. So we'll have to see, whenever it actually catches up. It probably won't resume at all today.
Thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. Hope to catch you guys in the next one. But until then.
Some of these names last year. This year, not so much. It's among the hardest hit parts of the market. Why are you sticking with names like a SoFi or an Affirm, which are just not what investors want right now? No profits, negative free cash flow, and hiccups in growth.
Yes, thanks, Sarah. I think on SoFi, and it's interesting that you say that the market cited like lighter than expected guidance. Actually, they beat care. Now, if we get a macro event and things turn south, that's not a SoFi issue. That's a broader issue. But I'm saying specifically for SoFi, this was an amazing quarter, and they're not getting any credit for that.
What about Affirm? You still stick with that stock? Another one that is not profitable 100%. And is falling in sympathy with Upstart.
100%. So it's the same issue, right? ABS, asset-backed securitization. Stocks are severely undervalued even
You're
today.
still 14 on SoFi? Stock is like at $5.
Who's been digging through the release. Kate, it's good to have you. The stock's still halted. I should let all of you know that first and foremost. Halted down 18.5%. There are some who are frankly taking issue with my characterization of the guidance as being quote unquote bad.
Sneak peek at the SoFi numbers. This was a release that came out early on the SoFi site. It said a test release, and I've confirmed with the source that these numbers are accurate. The company itself hasn't put out a statement. I'm told to expect a press release earlier than the normal 4 p.m. Eastern time. We will get an official statement from SoFi. I have not heard back from the company.
Following their first quarter 2022 earnings update, you look at SoFi falling in tandem down around 20%. The stock is halted at the time of this video
publication. Which is up 84% year over year. Although they did lower their Q2 forecast slightly, they did raise their full year 2022 guidance. And
the market's going to come back to SoFi, and with the stock trading where it is, I think there's, you're going to see a lot of the market start to favor it once again.
Now, Kevin, I wonder though if there are a lot of
services segment continues to lose money, so the SoFi needs to start to show path to close to profitability in the financial services segment in order for a lot of this to work. If they do, though, there is a lot of momentum, and that will continue to move to the upside.
All right. It's cheap enough you're willing to take that bet. Kevin Barker, thank you.
So, if you were, let's say, averaging down on SoFi over the last several months, and you average down on that day, your shares are already up 42% roughly, right? Let's say you never bought into SoFi before, but you listened to the conference call, you like the numbers, you liked everything they reported there, and you're like, I'm buying some. Dude, you're already up 30, 40.
An Affirm or a SoFi might have, worsening but not cataclysmic credit scenario. So I think this is a great question, Karen. I mean, look, I think that it right now, given, we live this space, right? We talk to investors all day long, right? I'm sure the same.
For the month, that's way outperformed in a bad way, both SoFi and Robinhood. So if you want to, throw something at the wall, I would say take a look at Affirm here. But I don't know if in his model, and you and Karen were getting at this, priced in recession, and is it a...
Now to SoFi, Mr. Jones.
SoFi.
What are your thoughts on SoFi?
I remember when SoFi was 3 times what it is now, and everybody was chasing. It is down. It is, what, $7 now?
Yeah.
I like SoFi. I absolutely like SoFi, and SoFi is going to be a long-term DCA play for me. And so I want to make that clear. But I like SoFi, and I believe that SoFi is going to be a huge company.
Well, I think that just like AMD, we covered that on
Yes.
Technical Tuesdays on your page.
Yes.
SoFi is looking very similar.
Yeah.
And it's actually all of the signals may be firing on SoFi. We're going to dive into them and give you guys some price points.
While you're looking at that, the question is how far SoFi is going to get beaten down. Is SoFi going to enter in the oversold territory? Those are the questions. And
because student loans aren't getting paid off. People aren't refinancing their student loans right now. But this just means one less big competitor, one
deeper due diligence on. This SoFi specifically is one of those names that hits so many of those screens where you would establish a short position. And I remember this was a final trade of mine a few weeks back, maybe about a month back. And I thought that it had already declined about 50% and then came out like the Biden news in terms
to date. And then finally, short interest. You've got Upstart, Lemonade, SoFi backed, all on the high end of that list. If sentiment changes, shorts have to quickly cover their positions, and that can often spark a rally. That may be part of the story with SoFi that I mentioned earlier. You can see that one's got about 15% short interest on that stock. Dee.
Okay, I want to go back to that idea.
The normal belief that this is actually good for SoFi. Anthony Noto, the CEO of SoFi, said it himself. He said, the President of the United States should show leadership and make good on his word to forgive $10,000 in student loan debt for people struggling to make ends meet and bring affluent borrowers back into repayment. And obviously this didn't happen, but he said on May. And if you remember from the Q1 earnings call, that SoFi doesn't even go after clients like this. The average client that is with SoFi makes over $176,000 per year.
By nearly 5 hours. Kate Rooney has the details. Maybe good for SoFi? Is it good for retail traders, Kate?
Yeah, well, SoFi would argue that it is. They say they're expanding access and expanding hours. Investors can now trade from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern versus the typical.
And this is SoFi's Liz Young, who says, we're finding out that crypto is not bulletproof in an inflationary environment. Noto obviously has a lot of skin in the game. He has a direct incentive to see this company doing well. And for
I want to ask about SoFi Technologies.
All right, SoFi is very hard to reconcile because it's got great management. It used to trade much, much higher, but at $5, I think Anthony Noto can turn this thing around and make it have money, make it a profitable company. I think we'll do it. So I'm not going to say
the green. I've been buying the right ones here, obviously, except SoFi did not come through, but Neo, I loaded up Neo twice. ChargePoint, we did that one. Amazon, we did ChargePoint again here. So I did ChargePoint Neo over the last 2 weeks. Really came through for me nicely. Putting my money where my mouth is, of course. Neo is now my largest position by far. Neo, way to go, Neo. We'll talk.
The damage and stuff being done, but yes, on top of everything else going on, all the craziness in the market, there's also over their finances, but it's not the end of the world, says the SoFi survey. So yes, even though people are stressed about their finances, even though it looks like we might be going into kind of an unprecedentedly bad time.
Robert, calling about SoFi, man.
Look. So I have no look. What I've been saying about SoFi is I do not understand it. It's at $5. That makes no sense to me. It's a better bank than people think. But that said, I have no catalyst to recommend the stock. Let's go to William in Missouri.
Financial investors who didn't like SoFi because it screened as too expensive, they now see this as being, hey, reasonably priced. And you've got all the optionality of like high FICO lending, deposits, and all the things that they're actually like based not priced in.
About SoFi Technologies Incorporated. This is ticker symbol SOFI or SoFi for those of you who are maybe not as familiar with the company or with the stock, the ticker symbol, whatever. And today was a very, very good day for SoFi. You can see that the stock was up 6.1% on the day. It started out in green and it pretty much just went up and up and up and to 2022 results. The digital finance company today announced plans to host a conference call to discuss financial and operating results for the second quarter of 2022 on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. At one as well ahead, you left your shares there. It just so happened that the margin maintenance increased while your transfer was in progress. I have shares at Robinhood, which is 45%, Fidelity 50%, M1 and Apex, which is 60%, and SoFi, which is 60%. After these traditional banks, they want to go after their customers. Hey, maybe these are some things to be hyped up and excited about. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Simply drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much.
A lot of market players listening to this is that this was a much more dovish Fed. Is that what you heard?
No, but I never go by what the market reacts to immediately.
Stocks that I'm still dollar cost averaging into, those are SoFi and NVIDIA.
11% before the bell. You also have SoFi getting a nice lift. It's up about 9% after a beat and raised quarter, so a higher full year outlook. Plunging to the downside, though, down 22% before the bell is Match Group, of course, the online dating company.
Got a buy rating on all three. Feeling vindicated today, Dan. We've given you a lot of grief over the last few months for continuing to pound the table on these names when they have.
That's the one that's very interesting, as opposed to, the SoFi and Robin, a lot has to go right in terms of customer acquisition.
This tweet, do you guys think this why when you have direct deposit, even on a checking account for SoFi, that's insane. That's going to get you so many new members, and I'm pretty sure it already is getting them so many new members.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you about SoFi Tech. I have 5% of my shares of SoFi, and yesterday with the 26% increase, I'm wondering if it's time to get out or if I should still
No,
stay
I
in.
went over the quarter with Anthony Noto, whom I've known faithfully since 1998. This was a very good quarter, a lot around, and if anything, I'd be a buyer, not a seller of SoFi, even after this move.
Because, SoFi has obviously kind of been beat down throughout 2022. The stock price has just gone down and down and down. So if you're going to sell, he's still down pretty significantly on SoFi. But SoFi Technologies holder SoftBank reports a 9% stake. SoFi Technologies holder SoftBank to sell some or all of their shares.
I'm going to send you a little picture today from cops later on in Milwaukee. But that said,
Please do.
What do you make of this return? I mean, is this a big risk for these investors who might have been burned a couple times?
Guys, this earnings update, okay, for SoFi Q2 earnings, it was an absolute home run, baby. I'm stoked, okay? We saw members go up to 450,000 new members.
So even if you're not directly related to SoFi or what's going on with whether or not the student loan debt's going to get pushed back or not, obviously there is still a lot of people interested in this. This is a big news story, and this is a big decision, and this is something that Biden obviously promised, to tackle, an issue that he promised. Going to start paying. Then it'll be interesting to see how the SoFi stock responds to that in the short term and in the long term. Anthony Noto is looking for.
And they're going to be selling it until the end of the year. But I myself think that SoFi is too cheap to sell. Okay, the chart suggests that this market can drift higher for the next few months.
3%. President Biden announcing last hour the federal government is canceling $10,000 in student debt for some borrowers, likely to affect some 40 million loans in total. Joining us now for more is Mizuho's Dan Dolev.
Then you're going to get a big wave of refinancing, and that's how SoFi makes money, right? In 2019, it accounted for about 60% of volume, 60. It's down to 20% now in the first half. So if you get that refinancing boom again, now that you have that, the moratorium clarity ending, I think it's going to be great for SoFi. So that's how it kind of plays into the SoFi story.
So the elimination of student loan balances based on the forgiveness of this $10,000 is not going to offset that at all? In other words, people won't have as many as loan balances to refinance if that happens?
It's only about, I think, about 50%. So remember, there's getting more and more calls from investors who are interested in SoFi these days because it's very, very uniquely positioned. Plus, there's more liquidity with SoftBank selling. So it's sort of like that perfect environment or perfect weather for people to get back into SoFi.
Well, we'll see if fintech is still something that has cachet, I guess.
That's what I go to Amazon for. Meanwhile, we're keeping an eye on SoFi after the Biden administration confirmed its student debt forgiveness plan, canceling $10,000 in federal loans for most borrowers and extending the pause on repayments to 2023. So by the end of the second quarter, student loans accounted for nearly 40% of SoFi's total loan portfolio. Shares of SoFi rose
$10. I think that, since SoFi said that since SoftBank a couple weeks ago said they're going to sell some or most or all of their stake, they're the second largest holder, that's also been an overhang here. So all of a sudden now you get a bit more clarity here. It's probably SoftBank selling here. That being said, I remember.
Second one's going to be BBBY. The third one's going to be SoFi. And then make sure you stay tuned for the last one. Though I do write them in the title, though, so you guys can see the actual stocks, just in case you can't see this here clear or you don't hear me well. But we're going to go over big news, how I'm looking to play them. I am looking to play each single one. Next one is SoFi. So SoFi had news as well. Let's go ahead and go over SoFi's news. Now, you guys know the loan forgiveness. Biden released that today.
$1,000 worth of student debt with SoFi, even if they have the $10,000 to $20,000 forgiven, that's still a huge market left.
If he does something, it's not always, put out. Less than 1% of the people who'd be refinancing with SoFi, so this has no material impact on SoFi's business. So again, I don't know exactly if all these numbers are correct. I can't confirm a lot of this stuff. I don't know. I haven't dug into the numbers enough, but I did think this was an interesting point and something to read into and maybe something to consider. So yeah, I don't know. There is definitely some SoFi stock lovers out there that are buying up some calls right now.
Down over 4%. Caterpillar's in a really tough spot. And the reason Cat's in a really tough spot is you have potential major slowdown of real estate construction and commercial construction.
Is there a home game? Isn't there a home game? Because as you know, SoFi owns the naming rights of the stadium where the Los Angeles Rams are playing. So the analyst says here, we see potential for a meaningful catalyst path over the next few quarters as SoFi benefits from the student loan payment moratorium ending and its high-profile NFL-aligned marketing investments drive user growth and is not a bad number to add. And then they go on and talk about the NFL and SoFi. So the NFL season has kicked off. If you're not in the United States, you probably have no clue when it kicks off, when there's the playoffs, etc., which is normal. Now, Bank of America expects SoFi could see a lift from its extensive partnership with the league, which includes the second half of 2022 and the first quarter of 2023, as SoFi benefits from its NFL-affiliated brand marketing. SoFi also recently signed Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert to a 3-year endorsement deal that includes an equity stake in the brand. The analyst continues and says that their analysis indicates interest in the SoFi brand inflects higher on Sundays.
We're going to talk about first one, SoFi. I like SoFi. I think SoFi, when it comes to people always say, if you had to give 5 growth stocks that are high risk, understand this, folks.
Departure follows Galileo's announcement this week of new Chief Product Officer David Fior. The board that recruited me, the finance team that made my integration into SoFi seamless, the lending team that ran through walls to improve operating metrics.
Why is the stock price much lower than it was? I highlighted this, and now this doesn't actually, work for SoFi, but what he also talks about is that the market that he's in, computing power is getting a lot cheaper year over year, and that pretty much what he's saying is that the total addressable market is growing, and our processes are going to get cheaper over time.
Stock subreddit, the experience behind SoFi's leadership, and it's this interesting little kind of poster thing where they show all the different companies that all the different SoFi leaderships have been involved in. Anthony Noto, really, really impressive stuff at the helm here, being involved with Goldman Sachs, the Army, NFL, Twitter, just massive corporations. We have some of the other guys here, some people with a lot going on, very experienced and also very diverse. People coming from different sectors, coming from different companies, some coming from traditional banking and these companies that they're looking to compete with and other benefits likely to discount to SoFi Stadium events. That would be sick. this would likely attract a lot of LA-based folks who especially love perks and travel.
Through, it then becomes a line of resistance. So imagine SoFi at $2 and imagine that your goal is for it to break back above its long-standing line of support at $5 or $4.97. You've got to keep that in mind. So if we get a breakdown on SoFi, I'm going to tell you that it's likely to go to $2. If
on IPOE. The setup for this company is really incredible. SoFi is systematically dismantling more than $2 trillion of market cap that is held by all the companies on the right-hand part of this slide. In fact, many of these companies, because when you have these millions of people giving SoFi their personal, financial, and behavioral data, what it allows SoFi to do is to build better risk models. And why that's so important is that then it allows them to better price risk. That's how you lend money without losing money in fintech. And in doing that, what they're able to do is take all of those profits and take that success and that confidence and reinvest it into creating more. Whereas those companies win, so too does SoFi. In fact, SoFi is responsible today for more than 90% of all the new account creation amongst all the neobanks in the United States. And so when you put these two things together, we think that we are witnessing the beginning of an incredibly powerful financial story. In 2021, SoFi will do disruption of fintech. I'd like to now introduce the CEO of SoFi, Anthony Noto, to walk through the company in more detail.
Thank you, Chamath. I want to start by talking about SoFi's mission. Our mission is to help our members, that we call high earners not well served, achieve financial independence to realize their ambitions, which means they reach the point that they have enough in December 2017. It's why I wanted to be the CEO of SoFi. My inspiration for this mission came from a video of a man expressing his gratitude for SoFi, in which he said something along the following lines. SoFi gave me and my wife the confidence that we had the financial independence to have children. That statement surprised me for a couple of reasons. Something a lot of people do not know about me is that my mom and dad got divorced when I was 3. My mom every day. And this is why I SoFi and why I want SoFi to be my life's work. In order for us to achieve our mission, we have to help people get their money right. This is our unique value proposition. This is the job our members hire us to do. We can't help them get their money right if we only help them borrow. We have to help them borrow better, save better, spend better, invest. Our 4 differentiators. The last pillar that builds the foundation of SoFi is how to build a competitive, sustainable advantage. Our strategy, the Financial Services Productivity Loop, is about building competitive, sustainable advantage. The 2 gold standards that I've seen over 25 years of following consumer, media, and technology companies are Walmart and Amazon. They have both. Second product, we have a higher odds of success of them choosing SoFi again and again. There are 2 benefits when our members buy the second product. First, we generate more revenue per member, improving our unit economics per person. Second, we don't pay a second customer acquisition cost, which results in lower cost, more variable profit, which we can reinvest back in better prices, better incumbent banks that don't have the type of tech or services that SoFi has, and as well as our ability to serve those regional, local banks that communities still want to have as a trusted partner. It's also interesting to see how many banks people are using. To create 500 million accounts, it turns out that 50% of people have more than one bank, which signals an opportunity for a better solution, our SoFi solution. The more interesting question, though, is why. 80% of consumers cite the reason for having more than one bank is a lack of an adequate one-stop shop provider. Therefore, these people have to supplement with additional banks. That's a huge opportunity for SoFi, given our strategy, our product offering, and our job that could drive the execution. One of the things I am most proud of building at SoFi is this great collection of executives from some of the world's most successful and well-known tech and financial companies. I want to spend a second and share with you our journey. In the first quarter of 2019, we were on our way. We launched SoFi Money, SoFi Relay, and SoFi Invest. And after reforming with that member, and then when they need a personal loan, they choose SoFi. When that happens, we do not pay the $825 in customer acquisition cost on the average personal loan. And instead, we increase our variable profit to approximately $1,700 per member from $940 on a standalone basis. We can reinvest that additional variable profit in better interest rates, better We couldn't be more excited about the acquisition and how it makes SoFi better, and equally how it makes Galileo better. But even more importantly, Galileo was already a great business as a pioneer in building a transactions platform and bank-in-a-box technology.
72% year to date, down 60%. I think we have to keep should have about $3.3 billion worth of revenue at SoFi. Now, some of the tailwinds is the fact that initially you had really good news when it came to that student debt relief. Joe Biden, I don't think he passed a law. I think he somehow finagled this through Washington somehow. And so he allowed, I think, maybe up to $10,000 of student loan debt relief for SoFi that will ultimately be good for shareholders. So you take your net interest income of 157, you add it to your non-interest income at 266. So you get that total net revenue coming in at right around $424 million. That's
Last
the number
meeting that we just had, which means the two.
That's a real Holyfield, $1 a share. You look at a stock like SoFi, they come in and they report these, actually impressive numbers in earnings time and time again, but yet their stock, it just can't do anything right now, and then it's back to $5. And it
numbers that SoFi has released. Now, aside from being the founder of Barbell Capital, he's also an author on Seeking Alpha, where he talks about a ton of different companies, but most in particular, SoFi stock, where from what I could see going through, he is the largest writer for SoFi stock and goes into the very, very in-depth details for all of their different business models. And we cover that in this following video.
SoFi is finally breaking to all-time lows. The all-time low was about $4.82. Now we're at $4.55. That's why I was not buying in through here. I did buy some shares Wednesday for SoFi, and I'm waiting to buy some more. So I bought here this day, and I'm actually waiting to buy some more. So our next support on SoFi.
Mizuho's Dan Dolev, who calls the firm and SoFi buys, has a hold on block. Dan, great to see you again. I want to get you first on SoFi because the squeeze between crypto worries and student debt has been like a pincher move on that stock.
Okay, let's get started. So went public in June 2021 via SPAC. Now, of course, all SPACs are SPAC. These are under a lot of scrutiny. And this one in particular is a Chamath SPAC. And there's just not a lot of good sentiment right now in the market, especially with SPACs and especially with stocks like SoFi. They're considered potentially meme stocks. The question is this a meme stock or is this a legit company that could give you significant returns if you hold it for the next 5 years? And that's what we're going to look at here today. Shares are down about 85% from their high point in early 2021. Now, of course, let's talk about that here in a second as well. So SoFi Digital Assets, it's impermissible for banks. Now they have a bank charter, so they're considered a bank. It's impermissible for them to have cryptocurrency. So SoFi was given 2 years to divest itself of that cryptocurrency division or get in compliance with the law. Now during this period, SoFi was not supposed to expand or do anything additional with their crypto offerings, and they did a couple of things. The first thing they did, and this is where senators raised concerns, SoFi PE ratio, there's no dividend. They're in growth mode, and SoFi Stadium is part of that growth acceleration. So additional tailwinds, I'm going to show you some slides here on the growth and expansion, just how impressive it actually is. Now, before we move on, I need to announce this video is sponsored by The Motley Fool. If you'd like to see the 10 best stocks to buy now, visit fool.com. And I'm going to give you guys some fresh technicals for SoFi and ChargePoint. Let's start off with this clip.
What about the governance of this? Because one of the things we have not talked about is you had no board and you had no CFO. And that should have been a red flag, frankly, for all of us.
So I would think, oh, wow, you could buy SoFi at a discount to their book value, which is a really good deal, potentially. Unless, of course, the market is pricing in a bank run. A bank run would occur if, let's say, if SoFi has $5 billion in customer deposits, which they roughly do, and 30% of them said, we want our money out, that would be that.